Hey guys, it's Melissa here from melissaoatman.com. Welcome to Awaken Your Inner Awesomeness, a daily podcast devoted to spirituality and self help. If you're new, I want to welcome you. If you're returning, welcome back. So today I'm very honored to have with us Miss Jean Walters, who is the author of the new book, The Magic and Mystery of Dreams. Although that is not her only book, she has 5 books under her belt. She also works with people to do transformational life coaching and can also dive into your Akashic records, which is an amazing skill to have. I love that. So I am so excited to have you here with us today.
Thank you so much, Melissa. I'm excited too. I appreciate it.
I'm so excited to talk to you about your book because we were talking a little bit before we started this podcast, and you were saying how our dreams are so interesting and can be very deep and profound. And you said that you've been working with dreams for 40 years. So,
Yeah,
can you tell us
yeah.
a little bit about yourself and how you started getting into dream work?
Well, I got started into metaphysics and spirituality and dream work and all of that way back because I really wanted to understand life. I thought that what people are handed when they come into life are a lot. It seems like it's very dogmatic and a lot of rules that didn't make any sense to me, and I knew there had to be a better way. So I decided to start investigating as best I could. I mean, back then there weren't these kinds of books, and so you really had to scrounge around to find anything that had any depth to it. But anyway, I had a mom also that was very, very worrisome and frightened and kind of miserable. And so I knew that I had to find my own way in life because I knew I couldn't do it the way she was going to do it. So that was the initial motivator. But then I just started investigating, and with dreams particularly, I've been writing them down for many, many years, and I find them to be so profound because your subconscious mind is actually processing your day experience, and then it's putting it out in like this little sharp little vignette. And then if you're able to understand the symbols that are being presented, it can make a huge difference in your life. I've made major decisions because of some of my dreams, so
That's really
very helpful.
yes. So, how do people know when their dreams are profound and when they have messages, or when they're just some crazy, wacky dream that you had that, doesn't really have a lot of meaning to it? What
Yeah.
are your thoughts on that?
Well, dreams are so succinct. You might dream and you're actually getting a whole day's of material in just a short vignette. So people think they're crazy because they don't know the language. But it's like if I was speaking French to you and you didn't know French, or you were speaking German to me and I don't know German, we would go, "That's crazy." So that's why it's hard. But if you look at symbols and understand that there's symbols being presented, like a simple one would be if you're in your house and somebody's beating on your door and yelling at you, you might be like, "No, I'm not going to let them in. I'm afraid." And what it would be saying is during that day there was something trying to intrude in your space, and you didn't like it and you didn't want it. So you could go back to that day and go, what was going on there? And then you might find out that there's somebody that really isn't in your best interest in life, and there was a kind of an attempt at intrusion as far as you're supposed to believe this or you're supposed to do that. And so your dream was just depicting that little scenario. And so to me, it's like such a nice, sharp, message like that then I can look at my life and I can clean up some things that aren't going to work. They're going to really intrude into what I want to be or do or teach.
That makes a
So
lot of
that's just a
sense.
little simple one.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so I have one for you because this actually came up in my group the other day. We were talking about, I don't even remember how we got onto dreams, but someone was saying that they have dreams, and I've had this dream before where their teeth fall out.
Their teeth fell out. You
Yes.
know what? That's so funny you said that because I was talking to someone earlier and they said the very same thing. So teeth represent the way you chew your food. Food is knowledge. So you chew your food with your teeth. But if they all fall out, then you can't assimilate knowledge. So it's really about not making decisions, not chewing on things and not making decisions and moving forward. So when your teeth fall out, I think somebody else might be making your decisions. Right now, we're being programmed a lot over the news. We're being programmed a lot. And if we let the news and everything else program us, then we're really not making any decisions. We're just letting somebody else run our life. So it might allude to that, or it might, but again, look at the day before and go, in what way was I letting somebody else run my life? How was I not making my own choices? That
Yeah,
might be a way to get started.
that makes sense too. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I think that's so very interesting. So in your book, you do you analyze the dreams, or what is your book really about?
Well, first of all, I talk about what dreams are and how they work, and then I have a four-step formula that I've created so that to help people kind of walk through their dreams and understand what's going on. The first step is feeling. What's the primary feeling? Like when your teeth are falling out, it might be like you're confused, or if somebody's banging on your door, you might be afraid. So you start out with the feeling, I'm afraid. And then the second part is the theme. So your house represents your mind, and something's trying to intrude on your mind. So that would be the theme of the dream. And then you take the symbols from there. So the third part would be symbols. And you look at the symbols in your dream and what they represent. For instance, if you have a person in your dream that you want to decide what that person means to you, because that's you. In the dream, that's representative of you. So if you have somebody very generous in your dreams, then you know that that's talking about your generosity. And if you have someone very angry in your dreams, then that's talking about your anger and so forth. So, and we have all of those kinds of things. And then the fourth step is to string all these things together. So I feel afraid because someone's trying to get into my mind and I don't like it. Okay, so that would be the whole dream right there in just 4 sentences. And so when you, it's practice, 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 because what we're learning how to do actually is look at our dream from a different angle. So if I'm looking at it from dream language, and that would be subconscious language, and that would be symbolic language. So oftentimes people want to look at their dream in the same way they would look at their life, but it's so much more succinct than that. So takes a practice to kind of get used to it. But in the book, I have a whole ton of examples that really help people kind of get the flow of how it works.
That's, my higher self must have known that you were going to be on the show today, because I had the craziest dream last night myself, and I don't usually remember my dreams. Like, they have to be pretty, pretty bold and wild for me to really remember them. Normally, they don't seem to make much
Yeah,
sense to me. But
that's
last night, yeah, I had a very, very crazy dream last night.
lay it on me. You want to tell me?
Sure. It's really, it sounds incredibly crazy, but so
Somebody else is going to have that same dream, I
I
can tell you.
well, the interesting thing was the dream took place at my grandma's old house, and she passed away in December. And she was in my dream.
Yeah.
And so was my cousin, and it's a cousin, male cousin, that I don't talk to and I don't ever really see or anything. And in the dream, he had a gun and he was going to kill himself, and he stuck the
Kill
gun,
herself? Kill herself.
kill
Uh-huh.
himself. Yeah, my cousin. And like, I was in the other room and I heard the gunshot, and I ran in there, but nothing had happened. Like, he didn't actually do it.
Mm-hmm.
Even though, like, from the distance of the room, like, I could see the gun was here.
Mm-hmm.
And then later on in the dream, my grandma stuck the gun to her ear and pulled the trigger, and I watched her do it, but then she was fine and nothing, like, nothing happened.
Okay.
But to me, that was just like the most bizarre dream. When I
But think about it, it's so quick. I mean, it's just like within a few seconds, you had this whole thing. Your
Yeah.
grandmother would represent someone, a higher intelligence for you because she's wise and you always look up to your grandmother. So she represents a higher intelligence for you. And then your cousin, you have to give me, it's male, so it would be subconscious for you, because conscious would be female
Okay.
and male would be subconscious. And what kind of, if you described her to me as a person, what words would you use to describe her? Like maybe 2 words or something. Your cousin.
My cousin.
Him. I'm sorry, him.
Yeah. Um, I mean, I don't really even know him that well, but I would say because he was always older. But to me too, he kind of represents like fighting within the family because
Okay.
I know that he doesn't get along with certain other people.
So think about this then, Melissa, is that this part of you that represents fighting within the family is going to kill itself. So you're doing away with that part. Got it?
That makes total sense. That
Yeah.
makes total
And
sense.
then, yeah, perfect. And then your grandmother takes the gun, although nothing happened, but the intent was to just get rid of it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Then your grandmother takes the gun and she's gonna, but what she does is show you that it doesn't do anything. When she shoots the gun, it doesn't do anything. So it's what I would say is a dream is saying there's some turmoil within you about fighting in the family,
Hmm.
and you want to do away with it, but you're probably going to have to work a little harder at that because the gun thing isn't working.
That's true. That makes total sense to me.
Yeah, usually guns represent a decision. Like when you have a gun, it's a quick decision. Boom.
Yeah,
Yeah. But in this case, it didn't go off.
yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, that makes a lot of sense. And another dream I used to have all the time when I was younger was that someone would be chasing me.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it was like I couldn't get away. I couldn't
Yeah.
scream. I couldn't get away from the person.
Yeah. Well, the chasing dream is if you look at your life the day before, you'll notice that you were running from something or you're wanting to run from something, or it seems like you're maybe afraid of something that you want to get away from. So that's what chasing dreams are. And makes sense, right? And then everybody's had them,
Yeah.
Melissa. Everybody's had them. So,
What about tornadoes in a dream? Because I've had that
yeah,
before too.
even tornadoes in life,
Yeah.
tornadoes represent this huge amount of wind that's very destructive. And so it represents ideas and thoughts that are very destructive, that are out of control, you know. So you can imagine that a lot of people might be having tornado dreams in this last year or so,
Oh yeah.
because most everything's felt out of control. But I also had a couple that were students of mine. They were coming to the class, and before they got to the class, they saw this tornado crossing the road ahead of them. They just watched it. It didn't touch them, but it was like a block ahead. So when they got to class, I said, "So, what in your life represents a tornado?" And they both said his mother, or it was her mother. No, I think it was her mother. And I said, "So she's like a tornado, like destructive in your life?" Yes. And I said, "Well, the interesting thing is it never touched you. You watched it, but it never affected you."
Yeah.
And they were saying, "Yeah, we've decided that she's not going to affect us anymore." So what I'm saying is that was a symbol in their life, and you interpret the same way as you do a dream. How about that?
Really interesting. Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. That makes a lot of sense. And I love that people can grab your book and help determine
Yeah.
what is the meaning of their own dreams. That's really
Yeah.
awesome that you wrote that. So,
Well,
and you said, go ahead, I'm sorry.
they just have so much in it that you don't want to miss them. That's the way I look at it. Once you get used to it, you don't want to miss out.
Yeah. And you've been very gracious enough to offer our listeners the first 3 chapters of your book for free. So I know you're going to send me a link and I'm going to put that in the description, the show notes to the podcast, where
Yeah.
people can go and pick up the
All
first
they have to do
chapter.
is, yeah, contact me, Jean, Jean at Spiritual Transformation, and let them know that they want the 3 chapters, and I'd be happy to send them to them.
Awesome. That
Get
is
them
great.
started.
I will definitely be checking that out myself
All
personally.
right. Very good.
You've already given me so much information. So now I'm interested into how you work with people with the Akashic records.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, first of all, the Akashic records, if we understand that everything you've ever done or said, any action you've ever taken is imprinted within the universe. And the way we consider that is, we call it the Akashic records, but it's like a vibrational record is the best way I can describe it. So when I do an Akashic reading, I slow down and go like into a meditative state, and I take your name and your birthday, and that allows me to connect with you. So each person with your name and your name and your birthday separates you, and it distinguishes you. So I can connect with that, and then I can read whatever I see. Normally people come in with a specific idea, like they want to understand the relationship they're in, or they want to look at a situation they were in, and I read that situation, like what is really going on. And it's very helpful because it's clarifying. And I think sometimes we get so jumbled in our own thinking and doing and so forth, that to have somebody just clarify things for you and just put them out just step by step, or in a very easy scenario, it makes it easier to figure out what to do next. And I know it's been really helpful to a lot of people to just like, okay, now I'll say something and they go, no, no, no. And then I'll go and I'll add a little bit more, and they'll go, well, yeah. And sometimes you don't want to see the things that I see. And so then it's like, no. And then it's like, yes. you know, but the thing is, I just think clarity is such an important thing to be able to see clearly. And oftentimes we get clouded because we don't want things to be this way or that way. And we want to be some other way. And so we just get really stubborn and grounded and planted, and then it's not helpful because it makes your life so confusing.
Yeah, it really
Especially for
does. And would you say that working with someone who does something like similar to what you do helps people to um,
they make
get through
decisions.
things faster and easier?
Yeah,
It makes it
yeah,
easier for them in life. Yeah.
yeah. And generally, I mean, they really recognize what I'm saying. It's not like it's coming out of the blue, because it's just they're living in this energy all the time. And what I'm doing is just kind of grabbing them and going, here's here's what's really going on. And then it's like, oh yeah. Indeed. But also Akashic records are really powerful. I mean, as far as even looking at your job situation and what really matches you and what doesn't. And it helps to see more clearly. Then you can decide if this what your strategy is going to be. Basically, a lot of strategies come out of this.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think that you probably see a lot of this, but I feel like a lot of people, the decisions they make early on in life when they're younger, tend to be more decisions that made their parents happy, or they thought they had to live this way because society said it. So they end
Exactly.
up in careers that they don't like, or in
Uh,
relationships that are miserable. And
it's
I see a
so
lot of that in what I do too.
absolutely so true. It's really amazing. There was a story from do you know who the guy who wrote The Power of Positive Thinking, Dr. Norman Vincent Peale?
Mhm.
And he was counseling some fella, and he had failed 3 times in the insurance business. And he was counseling this guy, and he said, the fellow was kind of touching the wood table next to the chair he was sitting in, and Peel said to him, I'm noticing while we're talking that you keep touching that wood on that table, that you really like it. And he said, oh yeah, I love wood. I love wood. I love making it. I love shaping it into furniture. I love creating from it. I love the feel of it, blah, blah, blah. And Peel says, well, why aren't you going into that kind of work? And he was in insurance because his dad was in insurance, and his dad was trying to set him up. Well, the guy that works with wood is not the same guy that sells insurance. So when he finally thought, oh my gosh, that's exactly right, then he created this woodworking business where he was making astounding furniture and designing beautiful things. And he was really successful, but he would never have been successful as an insurance man.
Yeah.
So I just love that story, because I think what you said earlier is so right on, that oftentimes we please our parents and do things, and then we just are like slowly dying.
Exactly. I always tell my clients and I tell even people on this podcast that when you're out of alignment with what it is you're supposed to be doing, it's like a struggle.
Uh-huh.
It's
It
so
is.
hard.
It's hard to get out of bed in the morning, you know?
It is for sure.
Yeah.
And when you finally get back into alignment, then things start to get easier. And so I'm sure that people are probably very grateful that they get to work with you to
Yeah.
see, like, oh, this wasn't my path after all. And
Yeah.
even though I think we know it deep down, we just don't always pay attention to.
Right. But even having somebody reiterate that and go, oh, okay, then it's not just me thinking, oh, I think I'm in the wrong place.
Yeah,
It's someone actually can come in and confirm that is so wonderful.
I think it gives
It
you
makes,
permission to be yourself,
yeah,
Not that we need
absolutely.
it, but we need it for some reason.
Well, we do because I think what you said earlier is that oftentimes we're so busy pleasing our parents, and they have an idea that probably it would work great for them.
Yeah.
And then, if we try to do that same thing, it'd be like, you know, I would never been able to live my mom's life ever.
Oh, I totally understand because I went into teaching and I realized, it was great for several years, but then I sort of shifted again and I'm like, this isn't really what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, yeah,
I got the teaching part, but I didn't realize I was supposed to be teaching spirituality and,
yeah.
mind shifts, mindset shifting and those kinds of things. So,
It's wonderful.
yeah,
That's really wonderful because you're a light in the world, and even though you probably did a lot of good with your teaching, you're now teaching at a higher level, and teaching the things that have the most meaning for you. So that's so beautiful, really.
thank
I
you.
mean, I'll applaud you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, I love meeting like-minded people, and you just sound so fascinating. Now, how do you help people when you do transformational life coaching?
I listen a lot for one thing, but I try to find out where they are and where they want to go, and then I can help them. Wait a minute, let me get rid of this. And then I can help them. I am very, very intuitive, so we kind of, I think of it as walking down the road together, and then if they're veering off in a place that's not supposed to be, I can pull them back and head in another direction that I know is right. So in the process, a lot of things open up, like um, they become more aware of what's possible. But another thing that's important, I think, is that we were raised in such a narrow world, in such fear-based world, and I don't think we can find our true self, our bliss, while we're living in this tiny little world. We have to open up. So that's one of the things I do is I help people see what's possible. And instead of just being stuck with some small idea, I think people so much underestimate themselves.
Hmm.
And so I think a lot of transformational coaching is truly transformational, meaning whenever they tell me why it's not possible, I can challenge it, and then it sort of opens up the scenario. The storyline gets lost in there somewhere, and they can begin to see that it is possible. So it's really been an amazing journey, I think, to just realize what the truth is. The truth is that you're so potentially dynamic and powerful. And whenever I see people reducing themselves, I'm always like challenging that.
I
What
love
makes you,
that.
I'll even say to them, prove to me that you're not good enough. Show me something that proves it. They can't do that, of course,
Yeah.
but no one's ever said to them, prove it.
I love that. And I think that that is such a great exercise because I think we do think too small.
Hmm.
We play too small. And it's
Yeah,
understandable why we do because
we were
society
taught
tries
that.
to tell us we shouldn't want more, we can't get more, only this much is achievable.
Yeah,
But we both know that's not true.
yeah. You should be satisfied.
Yeah.
Why? And it's not about being unsatisfied, but it's about realizing that there's so much more ahead,
Mhm.
that, use whatever you've done and been and use that as stepping stones to go on to the next thing.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what I help them with, is I realize that each thing, even the terrible stuff that they talk about, even that was a stepping stone to going forward. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Pain
Yeah.
always serves a purpose, even if we can't see it when we're deep in the middle of it. But
Yeah.
that's the one thing I love about working with coaches, and because I have personally worked with many coaches too. And, I've done traditional counseling and I've done coaching both. And I got so much more out of the coaching because instead of just talking about my problems and how it made me
Yeah.
feel, the coach actually made me say, what did you learn and how are you going to use that to now move forward?
Yeah.
And I had actionable steps to say, okay, I'm
Yeah.
going to now do
Yeah.
this instead of
And
being.
I'll even say, so how do you know that's a bad thing? How do you know that that was a terrible experience? How do you know that?
That's a good question. That's a good question. And anyone who makes you think about the way you've been looking at things your whole life,
Mhm.
that's going to be a good experience for you
Yeah,
because it's
yeah,
testing you.
it
And
is. If we look from just like the Dalai Lama says, at everything, every issue, you look from different angles, and if you do that, then you'll arrive at the truth. And
yes,
I like that a lot, because that what I do is help them look at from different angles.
that's amazing. I have definitely learned in my own life that when I've tried to look at something with just my narrow minded ego self, I make a mess out of it.
Yeah, it's like,
And when I've learned to look
make
at
it
things
bad.
from love,
Yeah,
yeah, it gets really bad when you let your ego to make your decisions for you because
yeah,
everything is fear based and you
yes.
do everything. That's when you get like jealousy and just you're making your rash decisions, and it's all because it's fear based. When you learn how to look at things from love,
Hmm.
things number one get easier because you're not resisting as much. It's not a struggle like it is
Yeah,
normally.
everything shifts, everything. Yeah, and so it's we have these tools, and they're, but we have a survivor brain. So I think it's very easy for us to grow up with this idea that you have to be afraid of everything, because I think the brain is more wired for survival until we teach it otherwise, until we teach it that we can see something else besides just surviving. And
Absolutely, yeah.
yeah, yeah. But I think that's why it's hard sometimes for people, because they're still working out of their survivor brain.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you look at what trauma does to the brain,
Hmm.
that you go to that survival mode. And until you can actually retrain your brain, that's where you're going to stay because your brain doesn't just automatically go, okay, I'm going to start thinking
Yeah.
now from it doesn't. It's just we're creatures of habit and
Yeah.
it's all about habit and that includes doing the mindfulness training
Mhm.
to get your brain out of that fight or flight mode, which is what it's in when you're experiencing trauma and when you're in survival mode. That's what your brain is doing. Like
Mhm.
every situation is
Right.
dire, it's way up here, this is a problem. And when you get out of that, you realize, the things that I've considered to be such a problem in my life maybe weren't.
Yes.
And maybe
Yes.
I was just looking at it the wrong way, which is not
It's
your
like,
fault. Yeah,
right. It's like Einstein saying you can't solve a problem from the same mindset that created the problem.
right.
I always think, get above it, look at it from above, and then you'll see a different situation than what you thought originally. You
Yes,
might see an opportunity.
exactly, exactly. That is one of the best pieces of advice is to, I always frame it as take your emotions out of it and
Mhm.
write it as if you were just observing it like
Yeah.
you saw an accident. I witnessed this and here's what happened. And when you take yourself out of it, then, if it happened to somebody else, you wouldn't react the same way. So looking at it like a third party objective observer sometimes helps us to really see what's going on and not, oh my gosh, this is so bad. It's a million times bad.
Yeah.
Really not. When you're not like overly emotional and in the middle of it, it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be that bad.
I'm a great believer too that sometimes people just need to vent for a while, once they get that out of the way,
Yeah,
now we can begin to look at what's going on, you
right.
know.
Exactly.
It's like you said,
Exactly.
they get all tied up in emotion and then they can't see anything.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
can't. You really can't because you think that everyone's out to get you when you're in your emotions. And
and
then when you
you're not
realize,
that
like, that's not
important.
okay. Yeah.
You're not really that important that
No.
everybody wants to go get you.
Yes. Don't get such a big head. Nobody's out to get you.
Yeah, they're too busy getting themselves, you know,
Right.
to worry about you.
Exactly. Exactly. That is so funny. It's true, though. It's very true. And it just sounds like you're an amazing person to work with. What can you tell me a little about your other books? Were those also about dreams or things
This
that?
one
Oh,
actually, I wrote this book before the pandemic.
oh my goodness.
And it was just in me. I have two more books that are in me that have to come out sometime in the near future. But anyway, the journey from anxiety to peace: practical steps to handle fear, embrace struggle, and eliminate worry to become happy and free. And this was a bestseller, clearly. But it's all about tools and things, that exercises and things you can do to move yourself from fear to love. And it is based on my mom to start with, how she was such a fear-based person. She really had a hard time managing life because she was so upset all the time. And that's when I started realizing that I have to find my own way. So in the book, I just have a lot of different tools. One of the tools is about stories, the stories we tell ourselves. You
Mhm.
know, I hear this all the time, like, well, in my family, but my dad told me that. You know, it's like, are you attached to what your dad told you, or are you able to like release it enough to look at another possibility? But
Yeah.
we have these stories that, and it could be everybody in my family has diabetes or something. I think that's a horrible story, you know. But I think people get so hooked up at these stories, like, you know, I was divorced and it was horrible and it ruined my whole life. And so they spend the whole rest of their life being divorced
Yeah.
because they're still in the divorce and they never move on beyond it. And it's a form of victimhood. But, you know, it's like, do you really want to stay there? And if you do, I'm all for it, stay there. But but would you like to move beyond that and have a different story? Because that story is not going to take you anywhere good.
Yeah.
But people have these stories. I had abuse when I was a child. Okay, great. Do you have to still be in that place? Can you move on from that place? And what do we make as our identity? I mean, do we make abuse our identity then? Do we make divorce our identity? And are you willing to move into a different kind of identity? Because you cannot go anywhere in life until you're willing to let go of the old stories and create a new story. And every possibility exists for us. I mean, it's all there. So all we have to do is really acknowledge that it's time and be willing to dump the old story. But people get attached to that stuff. You know that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But you're so right. We tend to play the victims for so long
Yeah.
that for some people, I think there's even an addiction to the drama that comes with the
Absolutely.
addiction,
Yeah.
and being the victim. But it doesn't do anything pleasant for you and
Yeah.
keeps you stuck
Right. It
in
keeps you
mindset.
stuck. And um, the other thing is it affects your health.
Hmm.
Because if you, like, I do this little exercise in my meditation class where I have people think about fear and what it looks like and what it feels like and what the texture is and how it smells and tastes and touch and what you can hear, and notice their body. And then I have them switch to love, and then what love feels like, looks like, what the texture is, what the color is, how it sounds, and notice your body. And then we do this with a few opposites and contrasts. And then I ask them, what did you notice with fear and anxiety and resentment and anger? What did you notice with peace and love and joy and happiness and abundance and vibrancy? And anger and all the negatives are closing in, are tightening. The whole body is tightened up, and you can get a headache, you know. And when you open up to fear, to love and joy and possibility and vibrancy, everything expands. Okay, so but the other thing that's really interesting about that little exercise is that when I say be in fear, they do it. When I say now switch to love, they do it. Now, if they can do it in that little exercise, they can do it every single day.
Yeah.
Only I'm shocking them because they never thought that they could just move from one to the other.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is they did it because I suggested it. So when we listen to the news, there's a suggestion there, and people are taking on that suggestion. The suggestion is to be afraid, um, there's a possibility I'm going to get sick, maybe my neighbor's sick, uh, and they have all these negative possibilities. Maybe somebody's going to bomb us, and so they constrict. And when you're constricted, you can't come up with anything amazing and beautiful and, outrageously wonderful. You can't, because your mind is all tight and constricted. So to be able to move yourself in a way, and these are the kinds of things I have in here, but the way, so if you can move, if just allow yourself to realize you can shift. And the easiest way to do it is gratitude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I am so grateful. I mean, if we don't have like a million things to be grateful for, then you're not looking. Because in our world, there's so much. There's so much. So our families, we are always eating, we know even poor people eat all the time. And we have freedom, and we can say outlandish things, if we wanted to. We have a lot of freedom. So to live in gratitude it's an immediate way to open yourself up to just possibility and living a good, wonderful, happy life.
Yes.
So those are some simple things.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm all for stepping away and, just as you watch what you consume as far as what you eat, it's important to watch what you consume as far as what you take in on social media and on the news. Exactly. It's important to obviously be aware, but you need to know when to step away and only take in what you need to.
Do you know that most of the television pros shows have violence?
Yeah.
Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
And so you look around and where's one where I don't have to be subjected to that, you know? And then an awful lot of them have drug commercials. So it's like, if you have a itch on your nose, then you should get this drug or something. And pretty
Side
soon
effects are always worse than whatever it was you were taking the medicine for.
yeah,
Anyway. Like,
you won't have an itch, but you
you may die or bleed from the nose or what. I was like, I think I'll just have an itchy nose. I think that's probably
yeah,
okay.
it's great.
So true. So true.
But
Well,
the mind is such it's vulnerable,
mm,
and we have to pay attention to what we're putting in there,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Or you'll end up with crazy dreams, guys.
Crazier their dreams.
Right. Crazier than what you've had. Crazier than the ones that I talked about today.
Yeah, but your dreams are great. You can learn a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm definitely going to go and get those 3 chapters because that's fascinating. And I just thought my dream was just a silly dream that didn't even have any meaning to it. But that makes a lot of sense to me, what you described. So thank you
Yeah.
for interpreting that for me.
Yeah.
And thank you for being here today. This was such
Oh,
a lovely conversation.
thank you so much, Melissa. That's
And so if anyone wants to buy your book or any of your 5 books
yeah.
or work with you, how can they do that? What's the best way to follow you?
Well, my email is Jean, Jean, at spiritualtransformation.com. It's the easiest way to get hold of me. And then the books are all on Amazon.com. And all you'd have to do is put in the name of the book, or else just put my name, Jean Walters, author. And I have an author page that shows all the books. So I'm not too hard to find. And if anybody would like to get the 3 chapters, all they have to do is send me an email, Jean at spiritualtransformation.com. It's singular. And then I'd be happy to forward them the 3 chapters.
Awesome.
And
And I will
yeah,
put your email in the show notes for the podcast. So if you didn't remember what she said, you can just go and click right on it and then copy it and they can send you an email to get the free chapters. Thank you
So
so
much.
much
Thank
for
you.
offering that today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. I really want to help people kind of get turned on to themselves
Yeah.
and see what the possibilities are. There's so much available to every person, especially in our country.
Yes, that's so true.
We're wealthy here.
Yes.
We are wealthy.
So, if you had one little piece of advice you could give our listeners today, what would that be?
I would say, well, the bottom line is train yourself to look beyond what's going on and introduce the idea of love in all situations, in every situation. And if you get out of sorts because it happens, just step back a little bit and then go back to love. And the easiest way to do it is go to gratitude. Just think about all the things you're grateful for. You cannot be in fear and love at the same time. So if you keep choosing love, you won't be in fear. But it takes a disciplined mind to do that. And so I'm encourage everybody to just give that a go, and it'll make their life so much better.
I love that. That's beautiful advice. And I wholeheartedly agree with you. I think gratitude is one of the greatest things we have, and it's completely free.
Yeah,
So
it's
all you
great.
have to do is list what you're grateful for, and you can do it at any time. And it really does turn your day around. If it starts,
Mhm.
going downhill, it's one way you can turn it around big time. So I love that.
If you go to bed with that idea, gratitude, you'll have better dreams. You'll have really nice
See,
dreams.
you heard it here first, folks. Exactly. You want to have better dreams, show some gratitude before you go to sleep. Well, thank you so much for being
Thank
here with
you.
us today.
Thank you so much, Melissa. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And I want to thank all of you for being here with us today, too. I so appreciate each and every one of you. And I'm so thankful that you are part of my soul tribe. Don't forget, if you like this podcast, please subscribe. Please leave a positive review from wherever you're listening. The greatest compliment you can give me is to share my podcast with others. And I really appreciate those of you who have done that. If you want to follow me, you can follow me on social media. I go live in my Facebook group every Monday at 6:30 Central where I do a free card reading. Now I have a new Facebook group, so I'm not going live from my Reiki page, but rather the Facebook group. And you can join that by clicking on the link in the show notes of this podcast. Also, if you want to work with me, you can go to my website, melissaoatman.com. You can see the list of services I offer, and you can purchase any of them from my website. All of my sessions are done online through Zoom, so you never have to leave the comfort of your own home. And all of my sessions are recorded, so you get your own copy of your session. Thank you guys so much. I hope that you have a beautiful day from wherever you're listening. I am sending you so much love and light, and I will talk to you soon. Bye, guys.